When I woke up this morning and heard that Tommy Robinson was going to be released from prison, the greatest feeling of joy came over my body. Because once again, Tommy Robinson showed us what he truly is, what he truly represents. Hope. Hope for all of the people of the world who pine to be free, who pine for individual liberty, who pine to maintain their sovereignty, and who pine to tell tyrannical government that you can do everything you want to us, but you cannot take away our freedom. And once again, Tommy Robinson showed us what humanity is capable of if we stop being afraid, if we fight back. Tommy is a representative, a microcosm of what the human spirit is capable of achieving. And when I heard the news of his release, it got me thinking about why he was arrested in the first place. For trying to draw public attention to a pedophilia scandal that had victimized hundreds of thousands of innocent young children that the government had covered up for decades. What can be more noble than giving away your liberty, giving away your freedom, giving away your life and your comfort and your prosperity to help forgotten children that have been betrayed by the very government that has sworn an oath to protect them? And the worst part about it all is Tommy was arrested for being in contempt of court, for a breach of the peace, and potentially, as the government has argued, tarnishing the government's ability to give the alleged perpetrators in the pedophilia scandal a fair trial. But the worst part is, Tommy Robinson, even if that was a legitimate justification to arrest someone, which it's not, Tommy Robinson didn't even do what he was accused of doing, because when he filmed outside of the trial, Tommy Robinson asked the police officer, "Can I film from this location?" And the police officer told him, "Yes, you can." And Tommy Robinson only read off information that was already made publicly available in newspapers. And if he filmed from a location that the police said he could film from, and if he didn't bring to light any new information that wasn't already publicly available, how could he have in any way jeopardized the court case in any way that it wasn't already jeopardized? There was no justification for the arrest of Tommy Robinson. But when I originally responded to Tommy Robinson's arrest, and I was so angry because I had followed Tommy for a long time and I had been a big fan of his work, my video was titled "Tommy Robinson's Arrest, a Gift to the World." And I stand by that, because when Tommy was arrested, it was a gift in that it forced tyranny out into the open, into the light, to show its true colors. Because Tommy Robinson was denied our most basic fundamental human rights: the right to free speech, the right to participate in and be a member of a free press, because in the modern world, you don't need to be hired by a mega corporation that partners with the government to be the press. We all have cell phones. I'm the press. You're the press. Everywhere there is a person who pines for liberty, who pines for freedom, who has the means of a mere cell phone with a camera in their pocket, which is all of us, is the press. But Tommy Robinson was denied these basic human rights, guaranteed to us by God, by natural law. And if you don't believe in God, that's fine. It's a birthright guaranteed by birth. And the reason for that is when we are born, we are endowed with the ability to speak. We are born, we grow, we can speak. A government doesn't have to give you the right to do that. They can only, by definition, because you're naturally able to speak, take that right away. But the government cannot be justified in taking that natural right away, because in speaking, you are not initiating force against anyone else. And therefore, in order for you to be prevented from speaking, the government has to be the entity that initiates force against the speaker. Therefore, the initiation of force against free speech, against the free press, is immoral and is not justified under any false proclamation made by any government anywhere in the world. So Tommy Robinson's arrest was a gift to the world, because it showed us the tyranny of not just the government of Britain, but governments all over the world who act in this manner. And not just governments, but governments who partner with corporations to censor people, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Anytime free speech is being censored by those in power anywhere in the world, there is tyranny, and that tyranny cannot be justified when reviewed under the ideals of morality. Then Tommy Robinson was brought in front of a judge. And as it turns out, the judge didn't even watch the video that Tommy Robinson put out onto the internet. And within 4 hours, he was sentenced to 13 months in prison. He wasn't given time to prepare a defense. He was denied the right to a fair trial, and it was government that found him to be guilty. But this is an abuse of what the nature of government is supposed to be, because government is supposed to serve a free people. People do not serve government. Therefore, no government could ever justify taking someone, putting them in front of a judge, and locking them in a prison cell, because that goes against the natural relationship of government serving people, not people serving government. In order for a person to be thrown in a prison cell, the only just way that can happen is for a trial of peers, of regular citizens who are not in government, to hear the evidence and then agree to convict someone. And it is your peers, a jury of citizens, who can give the government the authority to throw someone in prison. The government has no just authority to simply throw someone in prison without first getting that authority from the citizenry. Otherwise, it is not government that serves the citizens, it is the citizens who are subservient to government. Then, an order was given by the judge that no one was allowed to report on the arrest of Tommy Robinson. The government of Britain attempted to arrest Tommy Robinson and simply make him disappear. This is an egregious violation of basic human rights, but it also does something else. It shows us why we have to be careful in giving government authority in the first place. Because if you give the government the authority to arrest people for exercising freedom of speech or attempting to be a free member of a free press, because the government needs to justify that by saying, well, you know, if people talk about certain things, it might take away the ability for other people to get fair trials. If you give the government the authority to take away your basic human rights for any reason, they will extend the reasons. They will extend the justification or the definition of what that authority gives them, and they will use that authority to take away your basic rights. So Tommy Robinson was not arrested because he was covering a trial on pedophilia. Tommy Robinson was arrested, he was silenced because his message was a threat to the political establishment of Britain, who did not want the public to know that a majority of the perpetrators in this pedophilia scandal were of Muslim descent, because the government had an agenda to flood England with people from the third world. You give the government the authority to take away your basic liberties for any justification, and they will abuse that authority and take away your liberties for other reasons. And the same thing goes with how the press was ordered not to talk about Tommy Robinson. They attempted to make their political prisoner disappear. And this is what happens when you give government authority to take away basic liberties. Under no circumstances should government have the authority to silence freedom of speech or silence freedom of the press. Tommy Robinson's arrest was also a gift because it showed us the danger of global government. Because had the global government, that these global corporations, these global elites, the European Union, whatever it might be, this global government that they wish to implement, been fully in place, then the order not to report on Tommy Robinson's arrest would not have only been in effect in the United Kingdom, but would have been in effect all over the world. And it was the very reason that government was smaller, that we didn't have global government, that we have different countries, that people like me in the United States of America were able to report on the arrest of Tommy Robinson and draw global attention to the political prisoner, Tommy Robinson. Because had I been under the jurisdiction of global government ran through the UK or just global government in general, then I too would have been under the threat of being arrested had I reported on the arrest of Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson was arrested to be silenced. But because of that jurisdiction ending in the United Kingdom, people all over the world were able to draw attention and public outrage to the arrest of Tommy Robinson. And instead of Tommy Robinson being silenced, Tommy Robinson was made into the martyr. The opposite effect. His message became more powerful than ever. The tyrannical government of the United Kingdom was brought into the light, and the whole world was able to see just how much that country has descended into tyranny. But we cannot stop now. This was a small victory, but the government of Britain achieved an even greater victory. Because a message was sent. A message was sent to all free people in the United Kingdom. Go against the political establishment. Talk about why it is against the best interests of the people of Britain to flood Britain with people from the third world. Talk about the negative aspects of the culture that is brought in by bringing in Muslims to your majority Christian country. And you will be silenced, you will be arrested, you will possibly disappear if you are not as well known as Tommy Robinson. You will be denied a fair trial, and your life will be destroyed. The government of Britain was effectively able to send a message to all free people in the United Kingdom to shut your mouth or hell will rain down on you. And this was not just in the case of Tommy Robinson. This was also true in the case of Count Dankula, who posted an online parody video of his dog giving Nazi salutes, which, even if it wasn't a joke, under freedom of speech, freedom of the press, remember we discussed under no circumstances can you give the government the authority to take away your freedom of speech. Because if you tell them they could take away the freedom of speech of a Nazi, they will expand that definition, as we saw in the case with Count Dankula, and they will take away the freedom of speech of all people who go against the government. And Count Dankula was charged and convicted, and even though he didn't go to jail, all of the free people of Britain saw that if you push narratives that go against that the government doesn't want you to push, or if you push narratives the government doesn't want you to push, then you will be charged. It will cost you $1 million just to not go to prison, if you're lucky enough not to go to prison in the first place. With Tommy Robinson, with Count Dankula, the government of Britain did achieve victory in using the monopoly over the use of force that government has to intimidate the free people of Britain into silence. And this is why you have to be louder, more vocal, more energized now than ever before, because the fight has just begun. And now your champion, your shepherd has been freed, and you must get behind him and champion his message and let the government of Britain know that you will not be intimidated, you will not be silenced by tyranny. Brexit is just the beginning, and Theresa May is a globalist puppet who is attempting Brexit in name only. That you will leave the European Union, but still be subject to the rules and regulations, the law of the European Union. A people without sovereignty are by definition slaves. Are you a slave? Brexit is just the beginning. Regain your national sovereignty, but then understand that it doesn't stop there. Every inch of power, every bit of power you hand to government, government will turn back against you and use it for tyranny. You must take global government, that is Brexit, the government of the European Union, and turn that into national government and regain your sovereignty. But you must learn the lesson and then turn national government into local government, because with local government, your vote matters more, and then the local politicians have more of an incentive to listen to your vote, because if they don't, they will be removed from power. And this is why smaller government is always better than bigger government. National government is better than global government, state government is better than national government, and local government is better than state government, because you have more say, your vote has more power. So I leave you with this, just because I really want to do it. And please share this link. Hey, Tommy Robinson.